You never know what you're going to get with a boss fight. Some are tough, some are innovative, and some are so short as to barely qualify as boss fights at all. On the flip side of this, however, you have boss fights so long, so epic, so drawn out that they can last longer than some entire games. Make no mistake, these boss fights will test your patience, your endurance, and most of all, your bladder capacity. See for yourself in these 7 longest boss fights that damaged your free time as much as your health bar. Enjoy, and do beware spoilers ahead for the following games.
With the pantheon of gods, you get all sorts of fun and weirdly specific deities, like Melona, the Greek goddess of bees, or Cardea, the Roman goddess of door hinges. It's a slightly different situation in Capcom's spectacular 2012 action game Asuras Wrath, however, where the 7 deities, the pantheon of gods who rule over the world, are all variations on god of being massively jacked up and punching people. Do we really need all 7 of you on this? Alright, whatever you say. In the mix, we also have the character you play as, Asura, who is massively jacked up and does punch people, but is also absolutely furious all the time. As Asura, you journey through the game punching 7 bells out of these 7 swells, before finally facing off against the final boss, the many-limbed Chakravartin. Before this fight even kicks off, you've got a lot of cutscene to sit through, from insights into Asura's parenting techniques, to Asura transforming into a many-limbed form of himself, that of Asura the Destructor, and of course, a big ghost party. Then, the fight with Chakravartin actually kicks off, and it's a spectacular, multi-stage, multi-minute epic that includes bullet hell flight sims, enormous amounts of punching, some truly excellent quick-time events, people throwing planets at each other, and references to things that happened at the start of this boss fight, because they were so long ago, they now count as satisfying callbacks. All in all, if you want to do this boss fight in one sitting, you're going to need to block out 45 minutes to an hour, which is definitely going to feel even longer because of all the button mashing you're going to have to do. Maybe get some icy hot in as well? Pays to be prepared.
Eva, I found that sniper you were talking about.
That's the end. He's a legend, known as the father of sniping.
I've got experience sniping in urban and marine environments.
What about the forest?
Never.
Being a really great sniper requires patience, tenacity, and lots of lying down. It's probably why the legendary sniper known as The End is such a legend. As the world's oldest man, he is capable of lying down for days on end, with or without a documentary about World War II to watch. It also helps that he's infected with a parasitic organism that lets him photosynthesize sunlight into food. Which, bad news, means that when you face the end in a boss battle in Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, it takes absolutely ages.
Sounds like this may take a while.
It'll be a test of endurance. Be careful, though.
To do this boss fight the regular way, you need to beat the end at his own game, stealthily stalking him through the jungle, firing off shots from your own sniper rifle whenever you can.
I've got a present for
This fight takes place across 3 different areas, and you need to be on constant alert because the end is a supernaturally gifted sniper, and even the smallest hint as to your whereabouts is going to get you a tranquilizer dart sharpish. Take too many darts and you're knocked out and wake up miles away and have to do the whole thing over again.
Reckless boy. You don't deserve to meet your fate just yet.
It's a brutally long, drawn-out war of attrition that can easily take 2 or 3 hours the first time you do it, which is probably why the game added a few other ways you can take out the end, if you so choose. These methods include sniping him early in the game when he's being wheeled out in a chair, or alternatively, using the Konami code to reveal his whereabouts on the map. The most famous of these alternate methods of beating the end, however, is what makes this technically the longest boss fight in video game history, because while you don't actually have to do anything, it does take a full week of real time when you save, wait 7 days, and then reload to discover that the end has died of old age. I know how he feels.
Light and dark, unless both eyes remain, the universe will lose its balance and face another Armageddon.
Then this thing should have slept for eternity.
Theologians through the ages have pondered the questions what is God and what is the nature of God, yet until 2010, nobody had thought to ask, what if God were a skyscraper-sized statue on top of a space rocket? This is the hypothesis submitted by action game Bayonetta, in which the all-powerful entity known by mortals as Jubileus the Creator slumbers within a colossal statue and can only be awoken by being blasted into space, with Bayonetta herself embedded in one of its gigantic eyes, and zealous baddie Father Balder embedded in the other.
The time has come for Jubileus to return. At last, the Trinity of Realities will know their real ruler, and time will begin anew.
At any rate, the apocalyptic revival of Jubileus comes about even after Bayonetta's BFF gene extracts her from the divine eyeball goop of Jubileus the Creator.
My, oh my. No one can control Jubileus now. His power is too intense.
Thus, we find ourselves in the final battle for the continued existence of reality as we know it, and as such, you're going to want to set some time aside because this one's going to take a while, folks. Part of this is due to the sheer variety of ways in which Jubileus tries to kill you, from good old-fashioned brawling, to conjuring a vast sphere to contain this mind-boggling boss fight, variously filling it with lava, ice, and prehensile tendrils with upside-down faces. In short, Jubileus is enough boss to last most other games for their entire runtime, and you'll spend most of the fight being dwarfed by an unknowably powerful space titan, right up until Bayonetta one-ups her opponent by summoning a somehow even bigger, even more terrifying demonic avatar, which she tags in to punch the suddenly puny Jubileus right out of its corporeal vessel. Is this the end? Of course not. You still got to steer this gargantuan boss into the destructive heart of the sun, and hope that Jubileus doesn't have an even bigger, even meaner god sibling waiting to beat you up in turn, or we'll be here all day.
The
This hale and hearty looking mega boss from 2006's Final Fantasy XII is Yasmat, who packs 50 million hit points. That's 1 hit point for every time I've made the joke about Final Fantasy not being very final when they keep making sequels. Still, this could very well end up being your Final Fantasy, given that it's probably possible to die of starvation while trying to defeat Yasmat. The 50 million hit points thing is particularly relevant to this boss fight's longevity because it's very tricky in the original PS2 release of Final Fantasy XII to break the damage cap of 9,999 hit points with any of your attacks. That means, even if you were dishing out the full 9,999 of damage every single time, you'd still have to attack Yasmat 5,000 times. "5,000! This boss's most effective weapon against you is repetitive strain injury. On a pretty good run, Yasmat will take you 3 hours, and even the fastest possible strategy yet uncovered only whittles that amount of time down to 50 minutes and 54 seconds. And while you might be tempted to leave this arena to nip to a save crystal and save your progress, if you do, Yasmat can cast regen and start recovering health, so better to just stick around here and see it to the bitter end. Later re-releases of Final Fantasy XI, including the HD remaster, included a 100-stage trial mode in which Yasmat featured as Trial 98, but for that, they reduced its health bar from 50 million to a mere 4.6 million hit points. If my calculations are correct, that means you'd only have to attack it a mere 460 times. The good news is, my wrists are saved. The bad news is, my orthopedist is out of a job. Sorry, Dr. Humphreys.
Want to help out with some varmints? You boys are a brave bunch.
If there are 2 things I would imagine would be unconcerned about you trying to kill them, it's giant tortoises and mountain ranges. So pity anyone who has to fight mountainous megaboss Adamantoise from Final Fantasy XV, because he's both.
Look at the size of it. It's freaking huge.
With over 5 million hit points and a literal mountain on its back, Turtle Monster Adamantoise is bigger than a Bethesda Day 1 update and takes twice as long to get down.
Well, here we are.
Although the creature is as majestic as it is humongous, Prince Noctis and his entourage must destroy it anyway because I guess it was causing earthquakes and scaring the locals. Seems like a raw deal for this ancient behemoth, but then it is probably full of exotic loot like a 10-story piñata.
Oh, hi there, opening.
Having hunted down the Adamantoise and carefully prepared for the fight, you still have every reason to be daunted, especially when it seems your only chance of slaying your quarry is by endlessly hacking at one of its enormous feet and hoping it gets annoyed to death.
It's nice knowing you guys.
The good news is this armored boss is very slightly weaker in its eyeball. The bad news is if you look closely in its eyeball, you'll see how Adamantoise can simply not believe the day it's having with this tiny irritating boy band. All in, this boss fight will take about 45 minutes of your precious human lifespan, but unlike a lot of the other bosses on this list, that time is entirely taken up with your tiny character hacking away at an almost impenetrable behemoth like a toddler trying to fist fight Mount Rushmore.
You should be proud you gave it your all.
I've got nothing left.
We actually did it!
Piece of cake, huh?
After an infinite regression, we arrived at an answer. The turtles all the way down.
At least these guys are having fun.
I don't want it to seem like we're picking on Final Fantasy here, but hey, here's another boss from a Final Fantasy game. The boss in question, however, known as Absolute Virtue from Final Fantasy XI, took such a breathtaking amount of time to complete that Square Enix ended up having to nerf the boss and impose a time limit of 2 hours, presumably for the health and safety of their players. According to Final Fantasy, Absolute Virtue is an Aeon High Notorious monster, although I think we can all recognise a dragonfly who has taken up powerlifting when we see one. The main reason Absolute Virtue is so difficult is thanks to its ridiculously unfair ability to regenerate hit points. It is constantly regenerating its health at a rate of 500 HP per clock tick, and has access to the ability Benediction, which restores most of its hit points multiple times, as seen in this tragic screenshot from the Final Fantasy wiki. Move over, for sale baby shoes never worn. This is the most heartbreaking short story of all time. Anyway, Absolute Virtue was so hard that virtually no one was able to defeat it, and their attempts were taking tens of hours. Anyone who found a non-standard way to win the fight quickly had their exploits patched out of the game, and Square Enix first had to release a video with hints trying to show people how to defeat the boss, before eventually nerfing the boss by lowering its stats, cutting a third of its hit points, and imposing a 2-hour time limit, although it still remains a daunting challenge even to this day. Presuming anyone is still playing Final Fantasy XI, which came out 21 years ago. Although, to be fair, that might be how long this boss fight took in its original form, so you never know.
Usually a boss in a Mario game takes about 30 seconds to complete. Jump a thing, bonk it on the head, repeat a couple of times, done. Super Mario RPG was a different beast entirely, however, partly because it was an isometric RPG, and partly because it was developed by, oh no, Square Enix, the developers of Final Fantasy. Hence the optional hidden Super Mario RPG boss Culex, a pan-dimensional time-travelling demon with a nice line in long-winded monologues, who is a step up from various kinds of turtle, if I'm honest. Because they apparently can't help themselves, Square included this Final Fantasy-style boss in Super Mario RPG, and, like a Final Fantasy boss, Culex is an absolute damage sponge, with him and his 4 crystals having a hit point total higher than both of the game's actual final boss's stages combined. To beat Culex, you'll need to defeat all 4 of his elemental crystals, which takes ages, before turning your attention to Culex himself. But ironically, while all these fabulously haircutted swordsmen from Final Fantasy games take ages to take down a crystal demon like this, Mario and his mates throwing colourful turtle shells at them get the job done in something between 10 and 20 minutes. Something to remember for Final Fantasy XVII.
Thanks for watching this video about the 7 longest boss fights that damaged your free time as much as your health bar. If you want to watch another video, check out this video up here from us. Down here is another video from Outside Extra, and I would make this outro extremely long as a kind of meta joke on the content of the video, but YouTube will only display these 2 things for like the last 20 seconds of the video. I'm probably almost about to hit that right now, so I should probably stop talking any minute now. Andy, stop talking now. End of sentence, end of video. Video's over, end.